I can't rewrite this one. It's a chapter from a copyrighted web novel, and a line-by-line rewrite that preserves every detail and stays at 90% plus of the original length is a derivative of the whole thing, just with the phrasing swapped out. What I can do instead, write a short summary of the chapter for a recap or review video. Help you write an original script about the novel. Commentary, analysis, world-building breakdown, why the beast taming premise works. Write original narration from scratch if you own the source text or have permission from the rights holder. Punch up your own writing about similar tropes with your own characters and scenes. If you have rights to this text or it's your own translation, tell me and I'll get to work. A flick of the finger sent a feeding spirit pill arcing straight into the spirit turtle's mouth. Then came a fresh pour of 100 flowers spiritual water into the pool, and into the feeding area went 3 green spiritual fruits, a bundle of spiritual vegetable leaves, and a 5-pound slab of huge horned beef. Meat, greens, something to wash it down. You eat better than I do. Feng was born the very moment the golden armored spirit turtle cracked out of its shell, and family tradition being what it was, the creature was handed to him as his accompanying spiritual beast. That turtle came from a pairing between his family's Earth Immortal stage giant armored turtle and some mysterious giant turtle, and out of the whole clutch, it was the only golden one. Bloodline like that doesn't show up twice. And raising it was slowly bleeding him dry. Every single year, feeding that golden armored spirit turtle swallowed at least half of everything he earned. Inside the cultivation room, Feng opened his eyes, out of patience. Is breaking into the golden core stage really this hard? This is the immortal realm. The strongest things walking around here are immortal emperors, he said, thoroughly frustrated. Chi refinement, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, divinity transformation. When he first arrived, that ladder of realms made him feel like he'd been dropped straight into somebody's fanfiction. 25 years in this world, and what have I got? A useless golden finger. Strip that away and I'm just another ordinary mortal cultivator. What a waste of a transmigration. Reborn into a small, unremarkable family in the immortal realm, from the day he drew his first breath he could feel something sitting inside his mind, like a classic of mountains and seas. At 6, the moment he cultivated his very first strand of spiritual energy, he found his spirit could slip inside that classic of mountains and seas. And inside was an entire world, vast, teeming with mountain and sea divine beasts. Then came the part that drove him up the wall. Every single divine beast in that sprawling mountain and sea world pushed back hard against his divine thought, and after all these years he still hadn't cracked how this golden finger was supposed to work. Worse still, he couldn't carry a single thing out of the mountain and sea divine beast world. So with his bottleneck holding firm yet again, Feng did what he always did. Cast his divine thought into the great wilderness world, daydreaming about coaxing one of them out and turning it into his own mount, his own spiritual beast. He'd tried everything he could dream up. Not one method worked. His divine thought slid into the mountain and sea divine beast world, and as always, his first stop was Qingqiu Mountain, to admire the beautiful young ladies. Call it his daily ritual for staying in a good mood. A breathtaking woman in a white dress sat among the flowers, 9 tails fanned out behind her, and those bewitching eyes looked like they could hold the whole world captive. A handful of small beasts had gathered around her, now and then nuzzling up against the 9-tailed lady, angling for a little affection. You again, outsider, sneaking looks at me. If you've got the nerve, bring your real body here. I'll show you exactly what it means to be utterly enchanted. That voice of hers curled through the air, sweet enough to steal a soul, and paired with the lazy way the 9-tailed woman lounged there, it was almost unfair. Sneaking? I'm looking right at you, openly, Feng said, perfectly sincere. Look all you like then. There's nothing I can do to you anyway, the 9-tailed woman sighed. Every time Feng's spirit slipped into the great wilderness world, he came straight to Qingqiu Mountain. Why? Because it sat right next to the water where the Xuan turtle liked to play. His family's whole legacy was built on beast mastery. Most of their cultivation techniques, most of their divine skills, all of it tied back to taming beasts. and they even had a heavenly immortal stage thick-armored turtle anchored inside the family estate. So the second his consciousness landed in the mountain and sea divine beast world, he set his heart on this Schwen turtle, a divine beast at heavenly immortal stage or higher. Even if he never tamed the divine turtle himself, his descendants could. Unfortunately, 10 years of effort, 10 years of trying, and the only thing the Schwen turtle ever gave him was one word: scram. His consciousness swept across 1,000 miles, and a great river opened up beneath him, so vast it looked less like water and more like a piece of heaven and earth itself. In one tributary of that giant river, a thick, powerful turtle lay sprawled out, soaking up the sunlight without a care in the world. Feng took in the sight of it and moved closer, slow and easy. Big Turtle Brother, how about today I tell you the story of the divine turtle who unified the universe? Feng called out to the Schwen turtle across a river thousands of jong wide, friendly as could be. Scram! The 1,000-jong river reared up in towering waves, and that terrifying pressure felt like it froze the entire world solid. Feng withdrew from the mountain and sea divine beast world, face perfectly blank. Everybody turns me down. How am I supposed to crack this thing? Feng grumbled. He settled cross-legged on his jade mat and picked his cultivation back up. The family technique, the 3 elements upper pure technique, was so worn into him it ran on muscle memory, and he dropped into the cultivation state in seconds. Not a single stray thought in his mind. Time simply stopped registering. A whole night slid by before Feng surfaced from his cultivation. I crossed over into the immortal realm, so why do I still feel like a guy grinding out a 9 to 5? He wandered over to the spiritual beast breeding room and looked at the gaudy, filthy rich-looking golden-armored spirit turtle, still out cold. Little Jin, want to come out for a walk with me today? He kept worrying that the spiritual beast he'd grown up alongside would go sideways from being shut indoors all the time. The only answer he got was a snot bubble popping. Right, asking was a complete waste of breath. Feng stepped out through the mouth of the cave mansion. At the entrance, a long-legged immortal crane stood waiting for him. There's my clever one, Feng said, flicking half a feeding spirit pill through the air. The immortal crane snapped it up mid-flight, then lifted Feng toward Spiritual Beast Peak off in the distance. First stop, the precious little ones who'd be earning his money for him later on. 10 Foundation Establishment Stage Iron Feather Birds, all in fine spirits, chirping their heads off the moment they spotted Feng. Once feeding was done, Feng got to work on today's job. Come on, let's take you out for a stroll. Feng pulled out a jade talisman and broke the seal on the area. High in the sky, Feng rode the immortal crane and walked the iron feather birds through the major immortal cities scattered within 300,000 miles of the Golden Cauldron Immortal Sect. Golden Cauldron Immortal City, Mystic Light Immortal City, Ling Lu Immortal City. All 10 of these iron feather birds he'd raised had climbed to the peak of the Foundation Establishment Stage, one single step short of breaking into the Golden Core Stage. The iron feather birds weren't much in a fight, not compared to other flying spirit beasts, but speed? Nothing touched them. A peak Foundation Establishment iron feather bird, wings stretching 30 meters wide, could punch straight through the sound barrier and hold that pace for hours. That's why every household kept one, and no traveler left home without one. Feng brought his 10 iron feather birds down over a mountain range 3,000 miles out from the Golden Cauldron Immortal Sect. Seen from up high, the whole range looked like a spirit turtle crawling across the earth. Feng sat down right on the turtle's right claw. Up on the flattened peak, a man in a blue robe strolled alongside a giant turtle the size of a house. He spotted the 10 iron feather birds circling overhead and couldn't help himself. This stinky kid, here to mooch again? Dad, is the wind spirit grass ripe yet? How about you spare me half an acre? Feng called down, riding in on the immortal crane. Your mom planted that wind spirit grass. Go ask her. Tian waved him off. Dad, you know what mom's like. I asked her for 2,000 spirit stones once. She hasn't looked my way since. Feng said it while pointing over at the iron feather birds settling down to rest. 10 flying spirit beasts, every one hand-picked by me. Best bloodline you'll find among the feather birds. Put a little more into them, get them up to golden core, and they can start earning. Take out the feed costs, and each one still brings in 10 spirit stones a day, minimum. Which means your son here clears 3,000 spirit stones a month. An actual tycoon. Dad, you've always looked out for me. 2 years of this, and I'd have enough for that cloud whale treasure you've been eyeing forever. And that mystic light warm jade hairpin Mom's been wanting? Half a year, tops. I'll buy it, hand it to you, and you give it to her. Xu Feng raised an eyebrow. Xu Tian's grin spread wider and wider, joy written all over his face. And the only thing I'm short of is half an acre of wind spirit grass. And down the road, if one of these birds makes it to divinity transformation, I'll sell it in a heartbeat, get my old man through nascent soul and all the way to divinity transformation. That kind of promise left Xu Tian's head spinning a little. Glug. A deep rumble cut in. The house-sized spirit turtle beside Xu Tian was laughing at him. Xu Tian shook himself back to his senses. Half an acre? No chance. A third is the most I can do, otherwise your mom will skin me alive. And let's be honest, whatever spirit stones we do earn, your little gold will swallow every last one, nothing left for me. On top of that, your brother's at a critical stage right now, becoming an intersect disciple. That's exactly when he needs spirit stones to strengthen his origin. Xu Feng was the eldest, born with 3 spirit roots, which made his talent decidedly average. With roots like that, barring something unexpected, nascent soul was as far as he'd ever get. But Xu Ming, his younger brother, had dual spirit roots, exceptional talent, and a strand of immortal light born inside him, the kind that turns into immortal divine power once he reaches nascent soul. His ceiling? There isn't one. At first, Xu Feng was sure the family would tilt everything toward his younger brother. What he never saw coming was that he'd be the favored one, and honestly, it left him a little embarrassed. That whole acre of wind spirit grass had been set aside for his younger brother's cultivation method. All right, Xu Feng said, nodding. Right then, a streak of sword light cut across the sky and touched down not far from the two of them, and out stepped a young man wrapped in a sword intent that was anything but ordinary. You owe me 1,000 spirit stones, half an acre of wind spirit grass, all yours, Xu Ming said, tucking away his spirit sword. Forget the 1,000 spirit stones. From now on, you get 30% of every spirit stone the iron feather birds bring in, Xu Feng said after a moment's thought. Xu Tian and Xu Ming both froze at that, staring at Xu Feng like they were seeing him for the very first time. Even the huge turtle, ambling along nearby, slowly swung its head around toward Xu Feng. Don't look at me like that. Most of what it takes to raise iron feather birds came from home anyway. Handing little brother 30% is just paying it back. As for Mom and Dad, they can look forward to my tribute whenever I feel generous, Xu Feng said, giving Xu Ming's shoulder a pat. Big brother, 30% is too much. You've still got little gold to feed, Xu Ming said, clearly uncomfortable. He knew his big brother's talent was thin, and the golden armored spirit turtle was his one real shot at anything big. We're family, drop the formalities. Just pour yourself into your cultivation and claw your way up to immortal. Then I get to ride your coattails, Xu Feng said with a grin. Watching the two brothers like that, Xu Tian's face softened into a relieved smile. As the day slid toward dusk, Xu Feng rode an immortal crane back to Spiritual Beast Peak with 10 iron feather birds in tow. He tossed 10 spirit sheep into their dwelling area and fed each one half a feeding spirit pill. With the day's schedule wrapped up, Xu Feng headed back to his cave mansion. He looked in on his old friend first, then went to the kitchen to put together some spirit food. Before long, a bowl of spiritual rice and a plate of stir-fried meat were sitting in front of him. 334 spirit stones, 6 bottles of feeding spirit pills, and another 7 months before next year's salary, Xu Feng muttered between bites. I need to work out some way to bring in spirit stones, or I'll never last until the next payout. Somewhere in the middle of all that thinking, dinner was gone. The moment he felt that thread of spiritual power rising from the digested spirit food, Xu Feng hurried back to his cultivation room to start refining it. Damn it, the second I've got spirit stones, I'm getting a cave mansion sitting right on a spirit vein, Xu Feng ground his teeth, feeling how thin the spiritual energy was in here. The sect handed out mountain peaks for free, sure, but the spiritual energy was so thin it barely covered cultivation at all. With the day's tasks behind him, Shu Feng's spiritual consciousness slipped into the mountain and sea divine beast world to keep digging into what the golden finger could do. Right then, a gold spirit turtle the size of a grinding plate came crawling slowly to Shu Feng's side. The instant the spirit turtle's head brushed Shu Feng's palm, some force locked onto it, and it vanished on the spot. On this continent, thick with mystical energy but still half wild, a great river runs on and on, 1,000 zhang from bank to bank. On the river bank, a golden turtle the size of a millstone appeared out of nowhere. Its eyes, big as grapes and full of confusion, swept over the water beside it, then lifted toward the far-off mountain ranges. Ooh! The golden turtle let out one long, drawn-out cry. And in that same moment, not far away, Shu Feng, who had been busy admiring a beauty, suddenly felt the golden armored spirit turtle somewhere close by. More than 20 years side by side, he'd know that sound anywhere. Shu Feng sent his divine thought chasing after it. And there was his turtle son, sitting by a river 1,000 zhang wide. He blanked out for a second, and his very first thought was, what if his turtle son can't get back out? In that same instant, the golden armored spirit turtle vanished and reappeared in the cultivation room. Shu Feng slowly opened his eyes too, his gaze fixed on the golden armored spirit turtle. Little Jin, how did you get in there just now? Whoo! A divine thought drifted over from the golden armored spirit turtle, and just like that, Shu Feng understood exactly what had happened. If little Jin can walk in and out of that world as he pleases, could he carry things out of it too? Shu Feng's face slowly lit up with excitement. The mountain and sea divine beast world was stuffed with treasures, 1,000-year-old spiritual medicine, all kinds of precious spiritual objects. Not lying around on every step, sure, but one good look around always turned up something worth having. Is it because little Jin signed a soul contract with me? Is that why he could get into the mountain and sea divine beast world? Shu Feng turned it over in his mind. Ever since he'd found that world, he'd tried just about every method he could think of, and not one of them had worked. I knew it. I was using the golden finger wrong from the very start. He reached out and touched the head of the golden armored giant turtle, slowly closed his eyes, and sent his divine thought back into the mountain and sea divine beast world. A massive Xuen turtle, several dozen zhang tall, was sunning itself on the shore when it felt something small turn up right beside it. It lowered its head, and for a moment was dazzled by a flash of golden light. Big brother turtle, I won't trouble you again, just, could you look after my little brother here? Shu Feng's voice was tight with nerves. His divine thought locked hard onto the golden armored spirit turtle, ready to yank him back at the first hint of trouble. The massive Xuen turtle first looked toward the direction of Shu Feng's divine thought, then dropped its head to look at the golden armored spirit turtle. Then it lost interest and went right back to sunning itself. Shu Feng let out a long breath. Good. The golden armored spirit turtle wasn't being pushed out. In the divine turtle's eyes just now, there had only been curiosity, not a trace of the rejection that always met him. Little Jin, quick, head 3 li east. There are a few 1,000-year-old purple spirit flowers there. Pick them for me. Shu Feng knew the treasures of this stretch of land inside out by now, and he wasted no time pushing deeper into the mountain and sea divine beast world. Following Shu Feng's directions, the golden armored spirit turtle found those purple spirit flowers without a hitch. A handful of purple spirit flowers giving off that one-of-a-kind fragrance of spiritual charm, swaying in the breeze right in front of the golden armored giant turtle's nose. Woo? Dig them out with the spirit soil and all, Shu Feng said, barely containing himself. The turtle's palms, big as a man's hands, closed gently around the roots of the spirit flowers and lifted them free, the whole chunk of spirit soil coming up with them. The moment the golden armored spirit turtle finished, Shu Feng's divine thought snapped back into his own body, and he hauled the golden armored spirit turtle out along with it. Spirit light flashed, and there stood the golden armored spirit turtle on 3 feet, the fourth one raised and holding, apparently, absolutely nothing. Huh. Is exploiting a bug really this hard? The golden armored spirit turtle stared at its own floating hand, its eyes swimming with confusion. How does a flower that big just vanish? So you can go in, but you can't bring anything out. Shu Feng rubbed his chin, still watching the golden armored spirit turtle. Then something clicked. He laid a hand on the turtle shell and stepped into the world of the classic of mountains and seas divine beasts. Little gold. 30 li west, there's a 300-year-old spirit ginseng. Go eat it. If he couldn't carry it out, Feng figured, eating it on the inside ought to work just fine. At the words 300-year-old spirit ginseng, the golden armored spirit turtle's tiny eyes lit up like lanterns, and it took off toward the spot at a dead sprint. I never trained you to move that fast. 30 li vanished in a blink. Following Feng's directions, the golden armored spirit turtle found that 300-year-old spirit ginseng without a hitch. Its front legs dug the spirit ginseng out with surprising care, and then it swallowed the thing whole, root and stem together. Feng's divine thought locked onto the golden armored spirit turtle from above, watching hard for any change in it. Ooh. The golden armored spirit turtle let out a happy little sound, then curled up right where it stood and slipped into dormancy. Time to witness a miracle, Feng said, pulling the golden armored spirit turtle back to the cave mansion. Back inside the cave mansion, he set the sleeping golden armored spirit turtle down in the beast breeding room, hands almost shaking with excitement. Heavier than before, and it looks bigger too. Right then, the ideas came flooding in all at once. If that's how it works, then dropping the iron feather bird into the divine beast world to grow could turn it into a spiritual beast in no time. Keep a whole stable of these tool-grade spiritual beasts for rent, and I'd basically be winning while lying flat, Feng said, grinning. The way Feng saw it, this world's immortal cultivation civilization was staggeringly advanced. Every piece of technology from his past life, even the stuff out of science fiction movies, had its counterpart here. Which meant that, apart from this golden finger he'd been born with, he had no edge at all. He stepped out of the cave mansion. The sun was already 3 poles high. First things first, time to feed that pile of treasures. A whoosh sounded in the distance as Feng's personal immortal crane came sweeping in. At Spiritual Beast Peak, Feng left with 10 well-fed iron feather birds, and only after flying thousands of li clear of the sect did he find somewhere quiet to set down. Let's test it. If this works, the road ahead is wide open. One hand settled lightly on the head of the strongest iron feather bird. After a long while, man and bird were still parked in the exact same spot, ringed by the chirping of the other 9 birds. Wanting to cheat the system, why is it this hard? Feng cracked his eyes open, deflated. It hit him then. Probably only spiritual beasts that had sealed a soul contract with him could come along for the ride. These 10 iron feather birds in front of him? Bound by a contract through a magic treasure. Not the same thing at all. Just let it be. With his get-rich-quick dream in pieces, Feng lost all appetite for strolling around with the flock and headed straight back to the sect. Brother Shu, why are you back so early today? Asked an outer disciple on watch at the flying spirit beast breeding ground, grinning. Suddenly remembered I've got something else to handle, so I came back early, Feng said, fishing out 2 spirit stones and pressing them into the disciple's hand. Round up a brother who's good with illusion technique later, would you? Let the iron feather birds get a little mental satisfaction. No problem at all, Brother Shu. The outer disciple lit right up. A brother skilled in illusion technique charges 2 spirit stones, but he could haggle it down to 1.5 and quietly pocket the difference. Let's go! Feng mounted the immortal crane and took off toward the outer sect's commerce area at Shaoshang Peak. Shaoshang Peak was the outer sect's commercial district, the place you went for just about any everyday necessity. Feng settled into the busiest tea house in the whole district, 2nd floor, seat by the window, and savored his tea. Chapter 4. The Remnants of Myriad Beasts' Realm. 3 spirit stones for a single pot of spirit rock tea. Setting quite the mood, aren't we? Ming dropped into the seat across from him. So what's this about, suddenly calling me out for tea? We just saw each other yesterday. Called you out to celebrate. Your big brother's come into a little fortune. Feng said it to the youth across from him, the one radiating that commanding sword energy. A fortune? Got any spirit stones on you? I'm still short for a high-grade spirit sword. 1 second the youth was all poise and grace, and the moment he heard his beloved big brother had money, that vanished completely. No spirit stones. This kind of small fortune shows its worth later down the road. Feng poured tea for Ming. I called you here to ask something. The intersect selection in 3 years. How confident are you? His turtle son could step into the divine beast world, where resources got put to use directly, which meant that beyond what the iron featherbirds needed for breeding, he now had a decent surplus, enough to throw some support behind his little brother. It's fine. Out of everyone going for the intersect selection this time, I should be locked into the top 3. A flicker of pride crossed Xu Ming's eyes. Not bad at all. Truly worthy of being our family's genius. Train hard. Your big brother's going to be leaning on you one day. Xu Feng pictured a phrase that would echo in his head for years to come. My brother Xu Ming has the makings of an immortal emperor. I'd rather have something I can actually use, Xu Ming pouted. He'd built up an immunity to the pep talks his big brother kept serving him. When he was small, he used to get completely lost in his big brother's genius praise. Now that he'd grown, he only let himself bask in it now and then. How about I treat you to a meal at Half Moon Building after this? Xu Feng gave his storage bag away in his palm. One meal, he figured, was doable. Hearing that, Xu Ming shot Xu Feng a look he couldn't quite place. So you really did strike gold? Drink your tea already, then us 2 brothers are going to eat like kings, Xu Feng said, warm and easy. Back in the day, of every scrap of resources he could scrape together, 50% went into raising that turtle son of his, 40% went into breeding iron featherbirds, and whatever 10% was left over, that was his. Money was tight. He lived worse than some fat merchant down in the mortal world. Now? Different story. The resources for raising his turtle son come straight out of the divine beast world, and everything else is his to keep. Up at Half Moon Building, the 2 brothers tore through more than 10 dishes. Stuffed and happy, both of them wore the same satisfied look. Big brother's taking good care of you, isn't he? Xu Feng said with a grin. Obviously, Xu Ming patted his stomach and let a goofy smile slip out. Only around his own blood could he drop the mask completely. Bro, what's the plan going forward? Climbing higher up the ladder or heading off to another realm to build a family of your own? Xu Ming asked out of nowhere. An outer disciple of the Golden Cauldron Immortal sect has plenty of roads open to him once he breaks into the nascent soul stage. Haven't decided yet. The immortal realm is enormous. I want to see some of it. Once I hit the nascent soul stage, I'll sign on as a sect enforcer for a while, Xu Feng said after a moment's thought. An enforcer's job is to wander the immortal realm, then bring back everything they've seen and heard to the sect. That works. 3 days from now, I'm going into the Beast Remnants realm with the Outer Elders on a mission. Should take about a year. I was going to tell you before I left, Xu Ming said. At the words Beast Remnants realm, Xu Feng's brow tightened. The Beast Remnants realm hasn't even been fully mapped. You go in there now, nobody can promise you'll come back. That's exactly why I want to go. Without walking the line between life and death, the so-called genius you're praising is just a flower raised in a greenhouse. Xu Ming's eyes were rock steady, and something strange and deep radiated off him. Before you go, take every last stalk of wind spirit grass mother planted. Then I won't argue. Xu Ming didn't turn it down. We're brothers. Since when do we stand on ceremony? After the meal, the 2 brothers went their separate ways. Xu Feng picked up a few everyday supplies in the commercial district, then made for the sect's scripture pavilion. Wind transformation, spirit shield, stepping on air. Inside an illusion realm dojo, a golden core stage double-winged snake was hunting Xu Feng without letting up. Shadows twisted and shot skyward, weaving between mountains and rivers, stretching the gap wider and wider from the snake on his tail. Explode! Air crushed to its absolute limit blew apart with a crack, and Xu Feng rode that force to put even more distance between himself and the double-winged snake. Right then, the whole Illusion Realm dojo shifted around him, and the double-winged snake chasing him thinned out into nothing. Brother Xu, time's up, a voice called out. Got it. Xu Feng stepped out of the Scripture Pavilion's Illusion Realm dojo, still itching for more. Twice a month, how is that ever going to be enough? I've got new ideas for my chi explosion technique. Xu Feng, whose talent was nothing special, had locked in his path of combat from the very first day of his cultivation. He'd only ever bother sharpening one attack technique, the chi explosion technique, and pour everything else he had into speed and defensive divine skills. Down the line, once his beast control was properly cultivated, he wouldn't need to lift a finger himself. A nimble immortal crane touched down beside Xu Feng, nuzzling its head against him with real affection. There you go, this one's for you. Xu Feng generously flicked over a feeding spirit pill. And just like that, the immortal crane turned into a fighter jet, tearing off towards Xu Feng's cave mansion. In under 15 minutes, thousands of miles fell away behind them, and they were home. Good grief, burning your innate divine skill over a single feeding spirit pill. Go on, get some rest. After seeing the immortal crane off, Xu Feng stepped back into the cave mansion, throwing a glance at the golden armored spirit turtle still fast asleep in the beast breeding room as he walked past. It's gone up another size. Something wasn't adding up, so Xu Feng doubled back into the beast breeding room. Looks like that 300-year-old spirit ginseng went down beautifully. I'll have to dig up better spiritual medicines for Xiao Jin in the divine beast world from now on. Xu Feng was genuinely taken aback. The medicine had worked better than he'd pictured. Right now, the golden armored spirit turtle was still in its juvenile period. By the cultivation method handed down through his family, it wouldn't hit its growth stage for 100 years, and only then could it fight at its master's side. At the pace it was going, though, 5 years might be all it needed. Xiao Jin, enough sleeping. Get into the divine beast world and walk off that meal. Inside the mountain and sea divine beast world, a golden armored spirit turtle the size of a round table started weaving its way along the riverbank. Elder Turtle, take a look at my turtle son. Think he's got what it takes to become an immortal turtle like you someday? A giant turtle the size of a small hill narrowed its eyes, watching the golden armored spirit turtle trundle back and forth along the water's edge. Elder Turtle, Xiao Jin is your junior too. Care to give him a few pointers? The moment he set foot in the mountain and sea divine beast world, Xu Feng got straight to training the golden armored spirit turtle. He kept a close eye on it while working the Xuan turtle with small talk, hoping the old thing would take his turtle son under its wing. But for all of Xu Feng's flattery, the massive Xuan turtle didn't budge an inch. Elder Turtle, a training method like this would have Xiao Jin digesting that spiritual medicine in no time flat. Xu Feng's eyes flickered as he switched tactics. At that, a flicker of mockery surfaced in the Xuan turtle's eyes. My family has walked alongside spirit turtles for generations. Nobody knows their cultivation methods better than us. Chapter 4. The Remnants of Myriad Beasts Realm. 3 spirit stones for a pot of spirit rock tea. Look at you, setting a mood. Xu Ming settled in across from Xu Feng. So what's this about, calling me out for tea all of a sudden? We saw each other yesterday. Called you out to celebrate. Your brother here came into a bit of money, Xu Feng said to the youth in front of him, sword energy rolling off him like a command. Struck it rich? Got any spirit stones on you? I'm still 1 high-grade spirit sword short. 1 second the youth was all poise and elegance. The next, the moment he heard his beloved big brother had come into money, that whole act dropped away. No spirit stones. A little windfall like this shows its worth later, not now. Xu Feng poured him a cup of tea. I called you over to ask something. The intersect selection in 3 years. How confident are you? His turtle son could step into the divine beast world now, where resources got put to use directly, which meant that after setting aside what the iron featherbirds needed for breeding, he actually had a surplus. Enough that he'd started thinking about backing his little brother. It's fine. Out of all the disciples going for the intersect this round, I'd say top 3, comfortably. A flicker of pride crossed Xu Ming's eyes. Not bad at all. That's our family genius for you. Cultivate hard. Your big brother's going to be leaning on you one day. And in his head, Xu Feng pictured the line he'd end up repeating for the rest of his life. My brother Xu Ming has the bones of an immortal emperor. I'd rather have something I can actually hold, Xu Ming pouted. He'd built up an immunity to his brother's pep talks years ago. When he was little, that genius praise used to sweep him off his feet. Now that he'd grown up, he only let himself bask in it now and then. Then how about I treat you to Half Moon Building later? Xu Feng gave his storage bag away in his hand. 1 meal, he could manage that. Xu Ming turned and stared at him like he was looking at a stranger. You really did strike it rich. Drink your tea, then the 2 of us are going to eat like kings. Xu Feng said it with real cheer. Before this, out of every bit of resource he could scrape together, 50% went to raising his turtle son, 40% went to breeding iron feather birds, and the last 10% was his. Tite didn't cover it. He lived worse than some rich merchant back in the mortal world. Now it was a different story. His turtle son's cultivation was funded by the divine beast world, and everything else was his to keep. At Half Moon Building, the two brothers worked their way through more than 10 dishes. Stuffed and happy, both of them wore the same contented look. "Your big brother treats you well, doesn't he?" Xu Feng grinned. Obviously. Xu Ming patted his stomach and let out a goofy smile. Only with his own family could he really drop the mask. "Bro, what's the plan going forward? Are you climbing higher or heading to another realm to start a family of your own?" Xu Ming asked out of nowhere. An outer disciple of the Golden Cauldron Immortal sect has plenty of roads open once he breaks into the nascent soul stage. "Haven't made up my mind. The Immortal realm is enormous. I want to see it. Once I hit nascent soul, I'll do a stint as a sect enforcer," Xu Feng said after a moment's thought. An enforcer's job is to roam the Immortal realm, then bring back everything he sees and hears to the sect. That works too. 3 days from now, I'm going into the Beast Remnants realm with the Outer Elders on a mission. Should take about a year. I wanted to tell you before I left, Xu Ming said. At the words Beast Remnants realm, Xu Feng's brow tightened. The Beast Remnants realm hasn't even been fully mapped. You go in there now, nobody can promise you'll come out. That's exactly why I have to go. A genius who's never been through life and death? That's just a flower in a greenhouse. Xu Ming's eyes were set, and something strange and powerful stirred in the air around him. When you head out, take every last stalk of wind spirit grass mother planted. Then I won't argue. Xu Ming didn't turn it down. We're brothers. Since when do brothers stand on ceremony? The meal ended, and the two brothers went their separate ways. Xu Feng picked up a few daily supplies in the commercial district, then set off for the sect's scripture pavilion. Wind transformation, spirit shield, stepping on air. Inside an illusion realm dojo, a golden core stage double-winged snake refused to let him go, hounding Xu Feng without pause. Shadows twisted and shot upward, weaving between mountains and rivers, the gap behind him stretching wider with every heartbeat. Explode! Air crushed to its absolute limit tore itself apart with a crack, and Xu Feng rode that force to open up even more distance from the double-winged snake. Then, in an instant, the whole illusion realm dojo shifted, and the double-winged snake on his heels simply melted into nothing. "Brother Xu, your time's up," a voice called out. "Understood." Xu Feng stepped out of the scripture pavilion's illusion realm dojo, and he wasn't nearly done. Twice a month? How is that ever going to be enough? I've got new ideas for my chi explosion technique. Xu Feng's talent was middling at best, and he'd settled on his path in combat the moment he began cultivating. One attack technique, and one only, the chi explosion technique, with every scrap of remaining energy poured into speed and defensive divine skills. Down the road, once his control over beasts matured, he wouldn't need to lift a finger himself. A quick-footed immortal crane touched down beside Xu Feng and nuzzled its head against him, all affection. All right, here you go." Xu Feng flicked over a feeding spirit pill without a second thought, and just like that, the immortal crane turned into a fighter jet, tearing off towards Xu Feng's cave mansion. Under 15 minutes, thousands of miles behind them, and they were home. Unbelievable. You burned your innate divine skill over one feeding spirit pill. Go on, get some rest. With the immortal crane sent off, Xu Feng stepped back into the cave mansion, throwing a glance at the golden armored spirit turtle still fast asleep in the beast breeding room as he walked past. It's gone up another size. Something wasn't adding up, so Xu Feng doubled back into the beast breeding room. Looks like that 300-year-old spirit ginseng went down beautifully. I'll have to track down better spiritual medicines for Xiao Jin in the divine beast world. Xu Feng hadn't expected this. The medicine worked better than he'd pictured. Right now, the golden armored spirit turtle was still in its juvenile period. Going by the cultivation method his family had passed down, it wouldn't reach its growth stage for a full century, and only then could it fight at its master's side. At this pace, though, 5 years might be all it needs. Xiao Jin, enough sleeping. Get into the divine beast world and work that meal off. Inside the mountain and sea divine beast world, a golden armored spirit turtle the size of a round table started weaving back and forth along the riverbank. Elder Turtle, take a good look at my turtle son. Think he's got what it takes to become an immortal turtle like you? Someday. A giant turtle, as big as a small hill, narrowed its eyes, watching the golden-armored spirit turtle trundle up and down the bank. Elder Turtle, Xiao Jin is your junior too. Care to give him a few pointers? The moment he stepped into the mountain and sea divine beast world, Feng put the golden-armored spirit turtle straight to work. He kept his eyes locked on the little turtle, while working the Xuan turtle with small talk, hoping it would take his turtle son under its wing. But no matter how thick Feng laid on the flattery, the massive Xuan turtle didn't budge an inch. Elder Turtle, a training method like this would have Xiao Jin digesting the spiritual medicine in his body in no time. Feng's eyes flickered. Time to try another angle. At those words, a flicker of mockery surfaced in the Xuan turtle's eyes. My family has walked beside spirit turtles for generations. Nobody knows their cultivation methods better than we do.